Oh, did the narrative package change from week to week? William Byron puts a paperclip on that. Okay. We're going to talk about that, preview the desert, and really talk about how in the world do you even pick a favorite going into the Cup Series championship. We'll also break down the epic Xfinity Series points battles that got us to this point, and we'll get through some more silly season here on a brisk 5 to go. Tired of that silence, everyone? So am I. Let's get it. Welcome to episode something or rather of the 5 to Go podcast here on GoPRN.com and on Apple and Spotify and, of course, on YouTube now. Loving that since the spring months, basically, we've been putting this thing, at very least the spring months, on YouTube. So be sure to like and subscribe to the channel there. And, of course, if you just got sent this or it showed up an algorithm somewhere or you got down the wormhole and after 17 other NASCAR podcasts, you finally found us, that's probably a low number, 17, like and subscribe. We'd love your notifications. This will continue to go into the offseason, and the offseason, folks, is on our doorstep. I'm your co-host, Doug Turnbull, from the announcing team at Performance Racing Network, and also traffic reporter with Rachel Cox Rosen on 11 Alive News here in Atlanta, and your AJC Gridlock guy. So honored to be on with you here, and thank you all for being patient with us. We've all got busy work and errands and travel schedules, and we shoehorn this thing in because we love racing just like you. This is our hobby. This is our golf game. I'm much better than this, than even at putt-putt. Welcome to the show. We're going to talk about William Byron's big win, but the big move as well over the guy that a lot of people had preordained to win this race and win his way into a championship, and the string of championship streaks, if you will, that will come to an end in Phoenix. Joining us on the line here, he's the only person that takes this championship seriously. You know why? Because he's wearing a tie. He's our super racing fanalist. He crunches the numbers for you. He's our roving racing journo. Hashtag hire Devin. Respond right here. Hire Devin. My boy is a multimedia journalist. He wants to go to work. Devin Kupka, welcome to the show, bro.
Yeah. It sounds like the jet dryers are outside my house right now. Somebody's doing landscaping.
Wait, same here. I've got
street.
the leaf blowers out in the courtyard, and it's reverberating. So we've
Yeah,
got
sounds like the jet
dryers
dryers
and
are out here.
stereo.
But I'm doing well. It was a fun weekend. I was out there in Cincinnati. Got to see my New York Jets win their first game of the season. It felt like we won the Super Bowl on Sunday. It was a party atmosphere after the game was over. Fireman Ed was a couple seats down from me from where I was sitting. It was
how about
great
it?
time. We were doing the JETS Jets chant. And we honored Nick Mangold on Sunday after the game. One of an all-time Jet, probably our best center we've ever had. Number 74, he passed away on Sunday, so we honored him after the game, chanting Nick Mangold. So we got, I guess you could consider this maybe the Mangold miracle on Sunday.
Okay.
The Jets winning by 1 point over the Cincinnati Bengals, but it was a great weekend. I had a really good time in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Was it a comeback win?
Yeah, so actually we were down by 15 going into the fourth quarter. We scored 23 points to beat the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday. Crazy. The best the offense has looked all year, and defense got to stop when it needed it the most. So a lot of credit to this Jets team, and they're headed to the bye week, which is perfect because now just all NASCAR this weekend.
And bye week means you can't lose. That's it. Come on. It's been that kind of year.
You could still lose the bye week. It's possible.
It's get some injuries or DUI for someone. Yeah, that's true. Hey, but in all seriousness, and I joke a lot, okay? But Nick Mangold, and I didn't know a ton about him per se, but I knew the name. I knew he was a Jet center. I didn't even know that he was sick before his passing. He was only 41 or 42 years old or so.
Yeah.
He was fairly young. I mean, in consideration, and he needed a kidney. And just 2 weeks ago had posted on social media that he was basically at the end of his rope and he needed a type O kidney. I was reading up on this, of course, after the fact there. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out for him. So this is an important reminder, I think, to everyone and anybody, unless you have some real reason not to, sign up to be an organ donor. because it could help save people's lives, like Nick Mangold, and pay attention there. And by the way, you could survive without one kidney. So I mean, if you know someone that needs one at your blood type, give it a chance. Okay, respond right here. Respond right here. No, I'm not trying to make light of it. Seriously, Godspeed to him. I didn't know much about him except that he was a longtime Jet, and and there have been a string of NFL players dying lately, like in their 30s and 40s. Doug Martin, who it was really when you were a kid, Devin, but like he had a couple of seasons on the Bucks, and I think he ended up on the Commanders. Of just he would show up in Sports Center stuff all the time, and in highlights, he passed away like 36 years old. I was like, that guy's younger than me. That's crazy, right? And it just shows the toll that game takes on people, and it also shows it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire. Your health is priceless, so take care of your health there, right? And that goes to our drivers as well. Another guy who I know can relate to this, all right, has seen people around him that's been sick, but also been on the top of the world. But in the end, we're just all sacks of cells. At the end, we're all prone to the same things. Anybody else? You're not a superstar just because you're treated like a superhero. He is a superhero on the show, though, and I'm not trying to be cheesy. He's our master mechanic, grinding those gears at Dawsonville, 2018 Georgia Racing Hall of Fame inductee, Dan Elliott, championship winning mechanic at that. Championship weekend, man. I'm sure anytime you hear about a cup, it brings back memories, I'm sure.
It does, but fresh off the Mountain Moonshine Festival that happened in Dawsonville, and two things out of that. Did you get the pictures I sent to you?
Yeah, look crowded, look big.
Yeah, it was crowded. It was a lot of people thought that the crowd might have been off, or the number of show cars and stuff might have been off, but things are so spread out. It's not as it used to be. You've got so many things that have built around the Hall of Fame and around the City Hall that you have to try to find places to put all the cars and people, and you get all that spread out, and it doesn't look like as much, but trust me, it was. And two things out of this weekend really were I got to see Joe Gasaway, which Joe Gasaway and Bill Gasaway ran the garage, the competition side of the garage for NASCAR for years in the 70s and early 80s. And Bill Gasaway has passed away, but Joe was at the Hall of Fame this weekend and got to talk to him a good bit. 94 years old, still getting around, still going strong, and remarkable. And it was good to see him. And took the granddaughter, Sheena's little girl, Elliot, and we were just getting there, walked into the farmers market area, which is kind of overlooks the Hall of Fame because it's kind of up on the hill right there, up on the bank. And guess what? The first thing she pointed out to me before we descended the staircase down to where the cars were. What was the first?
Please don't say the Moonshine Distillery.
No.
Good.
Devin,
oh no.
What
oh
do you
no.
think?
Oh no.
The brand new McDonald's.
Golden Arches. That's the first thing she saw was the golden arches of the McDonald's. That was just hilarious.
Oh. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's great that it's a McDonald's. It's doing plenty of business, especially given the Elliott family legacy with McDonald's. But she did point out the 57 Chevelle or the 57 Chevy down there.
No.
Didn't point out, Grandpa's race car for back in the day. No, she pointed out the Mickey D's, the traditional Scottish lunch that she enjoyed.
I thought it was going to be a car that she saw down there that really intrigued her, but no, she turned up and said McDonald's.
Kentucky Fried Chicken and a Pizza Hut, McDonald's. Y'all ever do that song in elementary school?
No.
Oh, good. Okay.
I had KFC for the first
Elementary.
time in a while on Saturday.
Yeah?
I had KFC in Kentucky.
In Kentucky, I bet it was so much better.
And it was a buffet one, too.
Oh.
Never heard of one.
Wow. That's a
bucket of buffet.
You know what? Devin eating at a chain restaurant out of town is the most on-brand thing on this show right now.
Take a guess what I did to celebrate on Sunday night.
You probably went to Cheddar's.
I did in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Well, proud sponsor of Performance Racing Network, Cheddar Scratch Kitchen. Got to get those free cheddar biscuits served with your food. All right. There we go. Hey, look, sorry, not cheddar biscuits, the honey butter croissants. I don't know where I got I'm mixing that up with something else. The honey butter croissants served with your food. Hey, let's jump into the race here. We're going to try to do the show in an hour for you guys because the devs got work and we've all got things. But Martinsville weekend, anticipation level high. And I would say drama level fairly high. In all three series, there were seminal moments that were the complexion of the playoffs. But in the Cup Series, much like the spring race, it was basically dominated by two drivers. William Byron, unlike he did at Darlington early in the year, actually bowled a perfect race, if you will, or pitched a perfect race. He won both stages and the pole, and he won the race, maximized the points, but it didn't matter the points. He won the race. And he won it over Ryan Blaney, who had won the last two fall races, who had gotten control of this race on a different pit strategy, but had driven masterfully and from the 31st position had done so. He had slow fire off speed, bad at qualifying, but in the end, it was Lord Byron. People say Willie B is the nickname. How about Lord Byron? Lord Byron to the front there in what was he sponsored by, Devin? Apropos to your weekend, what was he sponsored by?
I heard he was sponsored by Cincinnati on the radio,
but not the city of Cincinnati. That's a technology University deal. Yeah. And that's been on Alex Bowman's car before too. The Cincinnati, a company called Cincinnati. That was a sponsorship. You were in Cincinnati, Dev, so pretty much you manifested this win. William Byron also won right after your grandfather passed away, right? Yep. Didn't he win? Was it Dover or Iowa? Iowa, yeah, it wasn't Dover because, he won Iowa right after your grandfather passed. So, Devin, you are manifesting William Byron victories here.
More on Cincinnati. I was wearing a Sauce Gardner jersey on Sunday who went to Cincinnati.
A who? A what
Sauce
jersey?
Sauce Gardner, our cornerback.
Sauce Gardner.
But he went
to Cincinnati. That
was
my nickname in prison.
He went to Cincinnati, wore that jersey, so there we go, even more.
Okay.
Willie B.
Dev has got all the threads, man. I swear. If I had the travel budget that Dev had, that'd be amazing, Dan. Okay, so
but look, isn't that ironic? I was thinking about Lonnie Anderson on WKRP in Cincinnati.
That's not ironic. That's called human nature, Dan. That's what that is. That is our fallen nature. I just thought it was
ironic.
Yeah, WKRP. All right, so William Byron wins the race over Ryan Blaney. Chase Elliott, who also had to win. He was like the second in line bridesmaid, basically, this whole day. He finished third. Ross Chastain, Hail Melon Man, he was a lap down at one point in this race and finished fourth. Kyle Larson, who just had to manage the points gap over Christopher Bell and did so masterfully all day long. He got 4 more points than Bell in this race. Is that right? Yeah, 4 more points than Bell in the race. And he finished 2 positions higher. He finished 5th. Ryan Preece, who was a lap down at one point, he sandwiched in at 6th ahead of Christopher Bell. Joey Logano, he had some swings at the front. Didn't lead any laps, though. He finished 8th, and he was in must-win territory. 9th went to Todd Gilliland, and Josh Berry came back from cautions and spins and Lions and Tigers and Bears. Oh, mine, 27th place starting spot to finish 10th. No Penske's in the championship for no Penske cars. There were no miracle wins from way, way below the cut line, but William Byron, who had gotten crashed out in the Ty Dillon pitting lap car situation at Vegas, and then he spun out coming to the checkered flag, or got spun out after Kyle Larson run out of fuel coming to the checkered flag, and their line fell apart. William Byron basically was a must-win, and I want to point something out before we get to you guys' take from the race. So Byron wins his way in. To even be within striking distance, and I know the points didn't end up super mattering, he ends up going into Phoenix, and the points, again, don't matter anymore, 326 stage points this year, 32 playoff points, 326 stage points. That's top 10 finishes in stages accumulated over 35 races. That means he averages just under 10 stage points a race. All right? That mattered all through the season. 32 playoff points, only 3 victories. So that means that 17 of those playoff points were winning stages. The dude has been fast all year despite being really quiet and not leading a lot of laps in these playoffs. So I'm going to come to you first, Devin, because I let off the show with boy, has the narrative changed. Hendrick Motorsports, dark clouds over him. William Byron, he doesn't have it, and then he goes out and leads 304 500 laps Sunday. And I know you were listening on the radio, you were paying attention to the Jets and all that, but as you digested these results, what are some of your thoughts, dude?
I think William Byron went out in desperation, got the win. Remember, the largest point differential ever in the playoffs going into the round of the
between
final
fifth
round
and fourth, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, going into the final race of the round of 8. I think you saw with Ryan Blaney there towards the end, they tried to put everything that they had, but they just didn't have enough. And Byron and HMS were able to come out on top, get into the championship 4 on Sunday. And it's going to be interesting to see how Hendrick Motorsports is going to attack Joe Gibbs Racing on Sunday, because it's going to be the battle between these two organizations. Right now, Joe Gibbs Racing's red hot. Maybe not coming out of Martinsville per se, especially with the engine issues that not only Chase Briscoe had, but also Denny Hamlin on Sunday as well. So we'll see what's going to happen. I think with Byron, it's going to be. I think the Hendrick. It's kind of weird to say this, but the Hendrick Motorsports drivers, I think, are going to have an uphill challenge on Sunday to win a championship, whether that's Larson or Byron.
I know you picked. We'll talk about picks later on. I know you picked Briscoe going after he won Talladega. You're like Briscoe or die. Okay, so we'll get more into your predictions there. But Hendrick drivers may still have it uphill. Kyle Larson won the 2021 championship there, the first one that they actually had. Oh no, second one that they actually had in Phoenix, and still has been quiet and has not won since May the 1st. By the way, has Kyle Larson. Dan, I want to ask you this: William Byron had the fastest car, but it was still hard to pass at Martinsville. People are basically doing the same line. You know, they're shifting. There's more, the cars are more stuck to the ground, basically. And Byron found an opportunity when they were in lap traffic with none other than Ty Dillon, by the way. And he gave Ryan Blaney, he had a faster run. Blaney went to block it, but didn't block all the way to the inside. And Byron gave him a little elbow check, a little boop out of the way, and took the lead. Fair game? Were you okay with that pass for the lead, considering drivers just couldn't dive bomb and kind of yo-yo each other like Martinsville days of yore?
I've got to tell both of y'all that I was impressed by how the drivers that were in the playoffs, it was almost as if the playoff drivers were running their own separate race from the rest of the field. It was like we had such aggressive driving that was not above aggressive. It was this is the way I'd like to see them race in most every place. And I do not understand for the life of me what happened to the other 34 races. We saw some races like this, but we didn't see the kind of racing all year long, except a place or two, that would factor into what we saw Sunday. Given the fact that at Martinsville, you can be a little bit more aggressive, but still it was almost like the chase race at Atlanta, Chase Elliott, and how he ran down there. We haven't seen very much of that all year long till we got to several races. So why is this not more the normal? Because we've got cars that are really, really close together on how they're prepared, how everything is done. The whole thing is within a small box now of what you can do, can't do. And I just feel like that this kind of racing we should have seen pretty much for the most part every race all year long, but it didn't. But it's still the playoff drivers. And I think that the car that William Byron had, I don't think you even saw what that car was capable of, even at the end, through the race or into the race. No one really, yes, it looked like he was trying to run Blaney down, but I think that was part of the strategy of how they ran, where they ran, and the time to go. And I don't think you ever saw the car unbridled and let it run for all it could run. Nobody challenged him when it mattered. nobody challenged him.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, Byron seemed to be dialed in. Another zip code.
It was beyond dialed. It was beyond dialed in.
Yeah, well, no doubt they came over prepared, eggs in the basket, and they won. And it makes you wonder: is this a good harbinger for Phoenix to come? I want to just quickly.
Can I say this about
go ahead?
Phoenix?
Yeah,
And
please.
then Phoenix is going to be. I think that race at Martinsville was a very, very crucial moral victory for the Hendrick camp, and I think that will play into Phoenix when all of this unfolds, because I think now you have seen what they are capable of and what I feel like is going to take place at Phoenix.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a market right here. Dan Elliott says Martinsville sets the table for
because
Phoenix.
I've seen on Facebook for the better part of several weeks now. It's probably been 4 or 5 weeks about the you can write on the wall. It's going to be a Penske victory at Martinsville. It's going to be Penske at Phoenix. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. And we get down to it. And with everything, now what do you say? Because now you've seen exactly what you got. You don't have to guess anymore who's the 4 that's going to run. And what I think is what I said at when we first started talking about the predictions for this, I still stand by what I said before.
And tell us.
William Byron.
William Byron. Okay. So we got Chase Briscoe, William Byron. We are 21 minutes of the show. We've already done our Phoenix picks, and I'll just stick to my. Okay, so I picked Larson.
Yeah, but I said that weeks ago.
Sure. No, you did. That's what I mean. Yeah, and Devin stuck to his guns too. I said Larson at the beginning. We're doing our picks now? Well, you both have already done them. You said Chase Briscoe already. Didn't you already say that?
I said that last week. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
there you go.
My pick a little bit here.
Okay, we're not doing them now. Then there you go. Redact that from the record. Redact it from the record.
Leave mine on the record.
Hey, all right. So let's go through this race just a little, and this is part of what is flawed about the playoff format. Is it makes the individuality of each event diluted because all you're pointing toward is the end of the season or the next round, and in this case, and by the way, I've been in general favor of most aspects of the playoff format. I'm pretty consistent about that. But I do buy into the argument that it makes each individual event a little less important because this Martinsville race, we could care less what any of the other playoff drivers did now. They didn't make it. Too bad. Didn't make it. Too bad. Didn't matter. You didn't win. I mean, I was sitting there trying to talk about points of William Byron. Then I'm like, wait a second. He won. Next. On to Phoenix. We can't even help it. In 5 breaths of talking this race, we're already talking Phoenix. We had a whole 500 laps, Xfinity 500 here. Dev, you'll like what I'm saying.
The race on Sunday, because I listened to the last 100 laps on Sirius XM. I feel like that race for out of the previous Martinsville races, the fall Martinsville races, that this was by far one of the tamest ones. That's just kind of what the vibe I got. Yeah. And wasn't it like 50 laps to go when Byron got the lead from?
It was, I think, 44 laps to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was far out, and even that late race restart, I feel like
there was an 11 lap.
There
was a caution on lap 484. Caution on lap 484 that Byron kept the lead on a restart, and that says a lot about these guys. It's not that Blaney wasn't trying to win; he just wasn't going to mow down Byron and knock the front end off of his car, driving over in front of him or something like that to win the race. You win it outright. And if this had been a long run to the end of the race, I still think Byron would have won, but it would have played more into Blaney's hands. If we'd had a 60-lap run to the end or something, because Blaney had a long-run car. I said more. No. I said more into, not more than Byron. I'm saying Blaney's chances would have been higher.
Higher.
Hold on. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I mean, if we had a 60-lap run versus an 11-lap run to the end, Blaney would have had more of a shot than it.
No, would have made any difference.
Because I think you got to look at it, right? That Byron passed Blaney, because that last green flag, I think then almost the whole stage, the last stage went green, right? Except for the caution at the end. It was a really long green flag run, and that Byron was able to pass him, and once you get the lead, it's kind of hard to pass there necessarily, especially
Yeah, it
on
was
that line.
it was in the middle
I
of a
see where you're coming
79
from.
lap.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But I think it would be very difficult for a car, unless a pit stop is involved, to where you get passed on the track and then being able to repass a car, especially like on a green flag run that we saw on Sunday.
That's fair.
You got to
That's fair.
catch the car before you can pass the car.
Yeah, well, no doubt, no doubt. A couple of other just hijinks here. There weren't any major issues. There was a slower stop from Chase Elliott early. He lost a spot to gain the back, so no harm, no foul. But his tire, I think it was the tire changer, the jack man, that jumped into the pit stall next to him and pulled that tire back before there would have been a pit road penalty would have sent him to the back, because it was, within inches of becoming an uncontrolled tire, or within a second or two, and he had like a 12.5-second stop instead of a 9.9-second stop, okay? That was a crucial moment there. Also, too, how crucial that Chase Briscoe, Denny Hamlin won their races, because, and I know things can be different. You race differently. You have a different mindset when you go into something where you need the points, but they both cooked engines in this race. Dan, transmission man, are you worried at all about reliability, particularly in the Toyotas? I mean, you've had some thoughts about Toyotas and who's suing the sport and things like that. But I mean, really, any thoughts when you have Hamlin, Herbst, and Briscoe finishing 35th through 37th Sunday, all expiring engines within 40 laps of each other, basically?
Absolutely. You are, as the team meeting probably went after Talladega with Hendrick, so the team meeting went with Joe Gibbs and Michael Jordan's deal after the race at Martinsville. So you've got to understand that this is a major concern, and at the time in life that you want to make sure that all your bad luck is out of the way for these last 3 or 4 races. You want to try to get as much behind you, because Hendrick came into this deal after Talladega thinking, boys, we got no more margin for error here. We got to have 2 perfect races. And that's the way you got to look at it, is you've got to have, of these 4 players you got left, you've got to have 1 perfect race. And if you've played all your cards in luck, as far as bad luck, good luck, whatever, now's when you need the good luck cards. Because I was going to say, out of this, the pit crews, this is not talked about very much at all, because you came through Martinsville, as you said about the pit crews. There were very few mistakes made, whether it be by the driver or the pit crews. Okay, no one talks about the fact that at the end of the day, William Byron was the hero of the day. All right. If the pit crew had made a bad pit stop on that last stop they made with 15 laps to go, whatever it was, you'd have never heard the end of it, as far as that lost him the race. But yet the pit crew, the engine, the car itself, the driver, all of those factors had to hit on all 8 cylinders all day long, and they did. And that was the thing about it. And no one talks about this fact that the pit crew, all we hear about the pit crew is they can lose you races, they can't win you races. Well, they won you a race yesterday or day before.
This was key to keep control of this race.
That is
as much as we
correct.
hate to say, and they will be at Phoenix as well. Once you get out front,
I
mean, we've seen Joey Logano pass Ryan Blaney in the closing laps and so on and so forth, but it's controlling the race. There's something about the clean air, just the track position in general, the fact that these cars are all dialed into the umpteenth degree, having the preferred line, control of a restart, the preferred lane on a restart, control of the race. Now, going into this weekend, the drivers, they all will have pit stalls next to each other. They're going to qualify at the same time instead of having Group A, Group B, all that stuff. They're trying to take away many of those differences as they can between the championship 4 drivers. And by the way, well, I did say who they were. Yes, of course. It's Briscoe, it's Hamlin. It's Briscoe, it's Hamlin. It is Kyle Larson, and it is William Byron. Those are the four that are going ahead. And we'll look at the other series here in just a moment. Some other things from this race here before we look ahead. How about Carson Hocevar being in one? And I know this has been said. I'm not trying to be cliche here, but he was in 1, 2, 3 cautions on Sunday. 2 of the cautions were with Daniel Suarez, his future teammate in the 7 car. The final caution with just 11 laps. Well, actually, at that point, it was 16 laps to go. The final caution was with his own teammate, Michael McDowell. Dev, young Hocevar has been bullseye for a lot of the year. At one point, he was in points contention to make the playoffs. There have been reliability issues. There have been crashing issues. I'll look at the point standings in a moment, but what did you think of that as you were listening on the radio and they kept saying caution 77?
Yeah, it's just it's been an interesting year for Hocevar, being involved in a lot of controversy and all that, and then being the three cautions on Sunday is just kind of crazy. But I guess the one thing he's got going for him is his digital platform. I mean, maybe that's the only positive out of the season. He's got girls sliding up into his DMs and
how do you know
dates for him. He posted a video on Instagram.
He posted a video talking about it. That means none have done that. That's if he is talking about it, that means it's not happened. That's see, like Dev, I'm the only one that talks about you proposing to Dua Lipa. You haven't said it. That means it's possible it happened. Well, he is 23rd in points.
Which isn't too bad considering how many times he's wrecked this season.
Sure. He has 8 DNFs, tied with Ryan Blaney and Bubba Wallace, by the way. Josh Berry has 9 DNFs, but 8 DNFs, 9 top 10s, and 2 top 5s. Of course, not a winner yet. It's been a tough year, but just at some point, keep your nose clean. You're not a factor. And Sunday, he just kept getting the sharp end of the stick there, whether it was or not. Also, too, Daniel Suarez was in 2 incidents. Both of them were with Hocevar. Actually, no, he was in 3. Daniel Suarez was also in 3 incidents. He was in the first caution with Bubba Wallace and Zane Smith on lap 29, and then he got into it twice with Hocevar. What the heck?
I think that's one thing he's going to probably have to look into for 2026 is to clean up a lot of that, because he's shown that he's got some talent, especially in that equipment at Spire Motorsports. So I think that's one thing he's going to have to start cleaning up next year is the crashing being the reason for a caution a lot of the times.
Suarez, you mean?
Well, no, Hocevar.
Hocevar. I think Suarez is going to have to also. This is Suarez's, I think, and he's got money with him. This has got to be Suarez's last shot in decent equipment. 1-year deal, 7 car, and from what Jordan Bianchi in The Athletic has reported, and we've heard others say as well, there are a ton of openings in free agencies next year. Opportunities for these young guys like Heim or Justin Haley, who might be on the sidelines as far as full-time goes next year, or Jesse Love, or Austin Hill, or Sam Mayer, or Carson Quapple, and I could keep on going. There are opportunities for a few of them to squeak up into the Cup Series, and then potential musical chairs. I think a lot of drivers will re-sign where they're at, but potential musical chairs at big organizations. Suarez needs to put up in that 7 car next year. And he can't help maybe how much speed it has, but he certainly could have it not coming home on the hook, finish a spot or 2 above where he's supposed to each week, which is what Justin Haley used to do before this season. That's going to be the ticket to the extension of his Cup career. He's in his early 30s too. Dan, you gave a couple of amens and high fives there, talking about Hocevar and Suarez cleaning up the racecraft. Was anything to add to that discussion? Because that's 2 full years.
That's where I wanted to go with that. Was would we be talking about Carson Hocevar if it weren't for him being so consistent on what he's done all year long? Is this anything new? And as I've said before, if you want to make a name in this sport and you don't have one, just run over somebody that does have a name. So maybe he took my advice on this, and maybe this is the way that you get your sponsor some time on TV, because for me, I had no idea what was going on at Martinsville in the rest of the field had it not been for him doing what he did consistently. So I'm thrilled that he's pushing the envelope here.
That's a great point. I do think that we would, because of the speed he's shown, the top 10 qualifying runs, the times where he's come from the back and driven to the front without hitting anybody, we would have talked. I think he would have been talked about.
Yeah,
He
but
got some press last year.
not as much as now.
Not as much. No, because you got to. We would have had the good talking about him and then the bad. Now it's yeah. We would have had it without the bad, so it would have been less.
Now that are talking about him, they get out of their car and they talk about him. I think there was something about him that Kyle Larson had said. So it just stands to reason that if I were his sponsor, I've got to be a little bit happy because good press, bad press, it's still the same press for me. It's talking about my sponsor and the fact that, yeah, we're going to have a talk with that boy and he's just a little high strung and it's going to be okay. So we're good to go. Let's go race.
There's a point to it, and there is a body of thought out there that Spire Motorsports has not done too much to discourage that behavior. They're saying, hey, you do you, and the trophies will eventually come. And that is true with drivers. If you tell them too much to change what makes them, what makes Hocevar run into people is the same thing that makes him fast, which is I'm going for it. It's not just being a jerk or something. It's also just, I'm going for it. To heck with any niceties, I'm going for it. And he is just louder about it than some
other
people.
Like
John Hunter Nemechek
the fans they were number one.
Right, which we may have learned to clarify that he was just doing that at one fan, but still. But Austin Hill, same way, though. Austin Hill is the same way. And frankly, the tide has started to push against Austin Hill. He might only be an Xfinity Series driver because of that. And we've discussed that in past episodes. We've discussed Hocevar at past ones. Also, too, with all of these potential driver openings, we had a big discussion about his driver behavior, maybe the last big dust-up he had a couple of months ago. And the thing I mentioned was if Hocevar, hey, look, Spire Motorsports is trying to build itself into the next big empire. And they could be. But will they ever be as good as Hendrick Gibbs Penske? It's as long as Hendrick Gibbs Penske exist in the respect they are, the chances are unlikely. I'm not saying not, but they're unlikely. If you want a chance, Carson Hocevar or other young drivers, to have a chance in the 48 car when they finally get tired of Alex Bowman running 10 spots worse than his teammates, you can't bring out a caution when the Hendrick car is leading with 16 laps to go. All right. You can't keep getting in those because they take notes of that. Ross Chastain 2 years ago might have played himself out of a chance to get considered in a better ride. And I know he's in a good one now because Mr. Hendrick and Chevrolet made a phone call. You know what I mean? Or whatever happened. I'm not saying they actually made a physical phone call. Whatever conversation happened behind the scenes when he wrecked Kyle Larson or played too hard with him at Dover 2 years ago. And you noticed Trackhouse wasn't the same after that. Ross Chastain wasn't ever quite the same after that. Other factors involved too. Carson Hocevar, again, buddy, we love that. I love the attitude. Come on, bring it. But no one to hold him and no one to fold him. All right. So as Kenny Rogers said, respond right here. Does Devin know who Kenny Rogers is? Respond right here. All right. Look. Quick silly season stuff that we look ahead to Phoenix, and then Devin goes to work. Number one, Cup Series side, we mentioned before, Ross Chastain is believed to be having a new crew chief next year. Kelly Crandall, excellent reporter, racer.com. We're planning to have her on. I don't know if she knows or not in the off season because she's written or co-written a NASCAR cookbook. Okay. But Kelly Crandall reporting that Brandon McSwain, who is an engineer, unrelated to Michael Fatback McSwain, by the way, an engineer on the William Byron number 24 team and has been for 6 years, is going to be moving over to replace Phil Surgeon as crew chief next season on car number one. Give a little spark to that team. Connor Zillich and Randall Burnett joining the organization next year. And then Steven Duran is expected to remain with Shane Van Gisbergen. All right, elsewhere, silly season-wise, a little bit of Xfinity news starting to form up. The smaller news first. Ryan Ellis, who had signed a contract extension at one point with DGM, the Mario Goslin-owned team, is parting ways with the number 71 DGM Motorsports ride. I don't know where he's ending up. That hasn't been said unless it's been announced here since we started the show. So we hope that Ryan Ellis finds a ride. He's one of the good guys in the garage. Got his first career top 10 back earlier this season. Staying on the silly season train, AM Racing announced that Harrison Burton was leaving the number 25 car, which, by the way, won the pole for the Xfinity race and looked pretty sporty early on. Harrison Burton, then days later, announcing he is joining Sam Hunt Racing back in the Toyota pipeline like he was years ago, and he'll be in either the 26 car or the 24, whatever they decide. A second full-time car, Dean Thompson, also returning to that team. We've heard some of the junior motorsports news, but with, Allgaiers coming back full-time, Sammy Smith's coming back full-time, and then a menagerie of other drivers and other vehicles, including Raja Karuth, is going to have up to 20 races. And I think, actually, he announced low-key on the Dale Jr. Download this week that he's actually going to run a full season in Xfinity and do the rest of his races with someone like Alpha Prime. He said that and then kind of didn't say it, but he pretty much said that. So he's looking to run the full year. They're hoping Carson Kvapil runs the full year, even though only part of the season, though, will be in the junior motorsports cars. And then Connor Zilic is going to split that car with Carson Kvapil next year. They also are expected to have some other Cup drivers involved in their program, including Shane Van Gisbergen and Ross Chastain. Richard Childress Racing announced that Jesse Love is returning to the 2-car next year. There had been rumblings that he was going to be moving to the Cup Series, and my thought was, where? Ain't no seats. But bring some sponsors. Maybe you find a seat. So Jesse Love is back in his position. Haas factory team announced a few weeks ago, although they're moving to Chevrolet, Sheldon Creed, Sam Mayer, both returning to their spots. There have been rumors and rumblings and things people said between the lines on podcasts about Haas factory team and even their Cup program and things like that next season. So we'll see what unfolds with that and who owns what. I've also heard Parker Kligerman talk about, and of course he's NBC and CW announcer. He said on his podcast, The Money Lap, that he has heard there are new teams, new organizations potentially joining the Xfinity Series next year. I'm interested to see what those are. Also heard some guys talking about, again, on the podcast front and saying with confidence that Colleague Racing is not expected to have a full-time Xfinity Series program next year. They've got 3 full-time teams right now. So you got Daniel Dye, Christian Eckes, the 2 young shoes, and then that all-star car that was driven by Josh Williams. None of that is expected to be the same next year, but Colleague does have was it 4 or 5 trucks? I can't remember, but they have the Ram program starting next year at trucks, and Brendan Queen, the only driver announced for that. So that's some of the silly season stuff there, guys. I know there was lawsuit news. I don't know how much you want to say. I'm just going to say what happened, which is any of the settlement talks that happened last week over 2 days did not reach a settlement. There's a pre-trial hearing November the 12th. There have been pre-trial documents filed, which sound just as spicy and just as much animus, if you will, as have been filed before. So it doesn't sound like the two sides have gotten anywhere closer. I would say the only thing that's changed is there's been a driver's council statement, if you will, that has gone and spoken in favor of getting this resolved, and also owners' statements that we've learned about over the last several weeks that have been added to the evidence pile that want this thing resolved too. So it looks like we're heading toward a December 1st trial. So after Denny Hamlin wins the championship and they have to hand him the trophy, then he gets to go and sue the pants off NASCAR. I don't know. Dan Elliott loves this. No, I'm just kidding. He doesn't love it. I don't know that any of us love it, but Dan, I guess we're going to see how much of this gets in the light, huh?
I think there is the key to this, Doug, is the fact that Doug, Devin, both, that we know so little about the charters, the inner workings. What I don't know of anyone. I've yet to talk to anyone that will tell me what is in a charter, what you're signing when you sign a charter agreement. I've found no one that will discuss any element of it. And I'm so in the dark, as with so many other people, as to really what the crux of this whole deal is truly all about. Because in the legal talk of what they have said, I do not understand a lot of what is going on and what we're seeking here. And somebody needs to bring some clarity, for me especially, on what the real crust of this really is.
Yeah, clarity would be good. I will say, for anybody trying to follow it, and this includes me, I'm not going, and I don't live in North Carolina. I'm not attending court hearings. I'm not doing LexisNexis and deep dives and getting court documents or any of that stuff. That's just, it's not my beat. All right. I'm paid to be a traffic reporter in Atlanta. All right. Two really great follows on this are Bob Pockris, big surprise, and Matt Weaver. Matt Weaver, and I put in Jordan Bianchi and Jeff Gluck as well. But I'm just saying Bob Pockris and Matt Weaver. Matt Weaver, motorsport.com, and he joined there middle of the season, writes extensively about this. Okay? And just if you want to have an idea of what's at stake, that's a good place to go, where the different sinews of the case. We're reluctant to say too much on here for the point of Dan said. Who knows what's really even in the charters and all of this. Ultimately, where does this go? It seemed to me about 3 weeks ago, even last week, okay, they're going to finally settle this thing. Finally, they're talking some sense. And now it looks like the settlement stuff is blown over. But you never know, just like with silly season or just like with the last lap of a race, what can happen here in the last turn. And really, the last turn is just the last turn of pretrial. Once we get into trial, my gosh. This won't be resolved for a long time. How long can Front Row Motorsports even stay in business without charters? These charters were just put on hold for this season. All right. Of NASCAR, you can't sell them. Wait a second. At first, they got to keep their charters. Now they're not their charters, but the charters haven't been sold. Will there even be charters for them? And if 2311 and Front Row Motorsports are successful in anything they're suing on, will there even be a charter system left? And that's why I think the teams and the drivers are like, okay, timeout. We may not love the charter system, but we certainly love it more than not having it. We've had it 10
Doug,
years.
Let me ask you a question. What do the charters allow you to do that the other teams who don't have charters can do?
Well, I think the number one thing is you get paid a lot more, and you have a guaranteed spot in the races.
Okay, so
the number
is
one
that
thing
telling me that unless I'm a billionaire, I probably will not run NASCAR?
Without a charter, unless you have a large stake to be able to acquire one, you won't be able to run without a charter. With a charter,
so
you can be Carl Long and go run without one, or you can be a billionaire.
Unless I'm a billionaire, I probably won't get to field a car in NASCAR anytime soon.
In the Cup Series, you're not going to field one competitively unless you have a lot of money.
Okay, this,
period.
In my lifetime, and I know I've been here a long time, but let's go back when Moby Dick was a mentor here, and we can see what we've come to, because out of the junkyard, we raced a car basically out of our junkyard for some of the components. Yes, other components we had to go to the manufacturer to get, and that was only a cylinder block and cylinder heads and an intake manifold. You basically had to have three pieces that had a manufacturer's casting number on it to race in NASCAR. You didn't have to do anything else except bring a car that fit the criteria of the rule book and compete against the other people that were there and try to make a show. Nowadays,
not true.
Not true. Okay, so
but even if it went back to that, I think that the money is what changed it before the charters did. Things became more and more refined. You had car dealers instead of racers, and I'm not picking on car dealers, but you had car dealers and industrial titans become car owners instead of local men that own dealerships like your father, who are just great business people, locally right there in Georgia.
Sport and made it so expensive that you can't come in and compete against them. Is that what we're fighting against?
Even before the charters, yes.
Even before the charters.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that you're not going to win an antitrust over that for sure. No. I think we could get into the whole merits of it or not. I think that the argument could be made that if it's in the eyes of the plaintiffs here, not a monopoly, that there are more billionaires and more people that would be interested in getting involved, and the sport would have more room to grow in their eyes. That's not my argument. That's just in their eyes. So we're just going to have to see. But yes, your great point is it evolved from that all the way to this sophisticated deal. And basically what you have here is the same thing that baseball will be dealing with in about a year and a half. when they're supposed to, the players' collective bargaining agreement runs out, and I think it's at the end of the 2026 MLB season, if I'm not mistaken. And as my buddy Jay Black, who's a sports director when I was at WSB for a long time, said, fans don't care about lockouts because it's millionaires and billionaires fighting over money. The millionaires, the players, the billionaires, the owners. In this case, it's billionaires versus billionaires, but it's different levels of who has the power fighting over still a ton of power. And the poor ones in the equation are the drivers. They're the millionaires, right? And then there's the crew members, of course. But, that's the stakeholders here. And that's why I think you're going to lose the public. And that's why I think a few weeks ago, NASCAR changed its tune and started talking settlement and putting Steve O'Donnell out there. They're trying to change that tide. We talked about it last week. Well, it didn't quite get to settlement, and here we are. So we'll follow that through the offseason along with many other things. Before we get there, it's Phoenix. Before we get to that, Xfinity Series, Taylor Gray, boys, wins his first career race in similar fashion to how he lost it both last fall in the trucks and this spring in Xfinity, with a driver there, hungry, going for the win, and dumping him out of the way. This time, with more on the line, Sammy Smith doesn't do the bonsai move. He even gets told on his radio by his team, let's do it the clean way this time. Sammy Smith pretty much had to win at that point, And he didn't destroy him on a restart. And Taylor Gray wins Martinsville. What it sets up, though, for the championship four is you had Carson Kvapil spin out late in that race, drive all the way back. He hasn't won a race this year, doesn't have prolific numbers, but he drove all the way back and back into contention there and joins Jesse Love on points. Entering that race, both Justin Allgaier, Connor Zilic had clinched on points, not on wins, but on points, to go to Phoenix. And that's your final four, championship four: Jesse Love, Carson Kvapil, Justin Allgaier, and Connor Zilic. However, we will have a split bill in the Xfinity Series. You know this? Because the owners' standings are completely different. Now, you could probably guess the 19 team that's driven mostly by Eric Almirola has won several times this year. They're going to Phoenix. Tons of points, great performance, yada, yada. And they're joining the 7 of Allgaier, the 88 of Zilic. Who is, without looking, the fourth championship 4 team? It's a team that had more points than its single main driver this year. This team only had 2 drivers all year. Any guesses? Winston George's Austin Hill only got penalized driver points for wrecking Eric Almirola in the Brickyard. The 21 car kept that bevy of stage and playoff points and put it right in the back of its Bennett truck to take through the playoffs all the way forward. And again, I know fans don't care about it, but it's just an interesting split bill, right? They will be running for the Owners' Championship against the 19, which will be driven by Eric Almirola this weekend, I do believe. And then, of course, the 7 and the 88, the Junior Motorsports cars. How about that, huh? If only Austin Hill had not lost his marbles back in August or back in late July, he would be racing for a championship once again there. Maybe that shows the importance of keeping your cool, right? Something teaches 4 children, okay, about keeping your cool. On the Truck Series side, we knew Corey Himes said, you know what? I'm not even going to make this interesting. No, race win number 11 this season. Best truck in the field at Martinsville. Lane Riggs was trying hard, man. Lane Riggs was trying hard, but he couldn't do it. He lost track position at one point, had a couple of tough races there in that round, including getting wrecked in turn 1 at the Roval. He had the Talladega from hell, and he just couldn't get it done in Martinsville. And he actually loses a spot to Caden Honeycutt on a tiebreaker. Ooh, that's tough. Tiebreaker, 1 spot is all he needed. And Caden Honeycutt, who's driven for 3 teams this year, right now he's with the 52 that was driven by Stuart Friesen before he got hurt. Caden Honeycutt goes to championship 4. Ty Majeski, no wins this year, championship 4, and Tyler Ankrum. Tyler Ankrum is the only driver out of the 4 championship Truck Series drivers, not named Corey Heim, to have won a race this year. Ty Majeski is the defending champion. Caden Honeycutt is kind of like, Hocevar has been, or no, maybe not Host, but somebody who's like knocking on the door for that first win. You wouldn't be surprised at all if he won, except for the fact that Corey Heim is in front of him. So, with that being said, before we get to the Cup Series Champ 4 guys and end the show, are either of you guys, and I'll ask Dan first, going to be disappointed, the kind of cliche question I'm going to ask, if Heim and Zillage aren't your champions in Phoenix for the 2 lower series? With all the wins, with all the fanfare, especially Heim, but Heim and Zillage both, if they don't walk out of there with trophies, I mean, are you disappointed?
No, I don't think
no.
so.
Okay. Okay. Both of you have some no mixed in. Okay. Go ahead, Dan.
No, I'm not going to be disappointed. I'm going to just view this as another, because I don't, for lack of better words, I'm not too thrilled with the way that the points, the playoff races, and the way it comes down to the end of the season anyway. So that part really doesn't factor in for me, and that's just my opinion. I'm not too thrilled with the way this season, with the way it ends in either of the series.
Fair enough. And Devin, you said yes and no.
Yeah, I mean, you see a driver that goes out, wins 11 races, doesn't win the championship. Yeah, it's disappointing to see that for sure. But ahead of time, I mean, even in the case of Connor Zilisch and Corey Heim, the playoff format's not a surprise. Everybody's given a shot. You know what could happen going into it. So, yeah, it would kind of stink not to see Corey Heim or Connor Zilisch not win the championship, but it is what it is with the format, and you have to race the format. And that's just another strategy at it, and we'll see who wins this weekend, but you're going to have to be the best in this format, you have to be able to play the format the right way. It's not just a point system anymore.
Since it's down to one race, one could argue, I mean, Heim and Zilisch, I mean, come on. They were clinched. Like there was no doubt they were going to the championship based on points and or wins, both in Heim's case. They did play the format right, So it just comes down to the one race, and that's the tough part. And if anything changes next year, it's at very least going to be, I would think, a championship round, and not a championship race, just by the tea leaves and what people seem to be saying. But who knows? I think anything can happen in that realm there. But nonetheless, they're going for it. We'll give you the schedule rundown in just a moment. I want to talk about the Cup Series going to Phoenix there. Been going since the late 80s. And the drivers of the Gen 7 era, I always like to pull up those stats. It's the same car. William Byron is number 1 in points over the Gen 7 era. A win, 5 top 10s in 7 races, average finish of 8th. Ryan Blaney is 2nd. Christopher Bell, who won in the spring, by the way, we'll look at the spring results in a moment, is 3rd most. Kyle Larson, 4th most. Seeing a thing there, 3 of your top 4 drivers in the Gen 7 era are in the championship 4. Denny Hamlin, 8th most points. Average finish at 10.9, though. He's not won in the Gen 7 era. In fact, I'd love to see. I'll have to look and see how many times he's won at Phoenix overall. But that place is, not only has the car changed a lot, but the layout of the track has changed twice in Denny Hamlin's career. So looking at career numbers at that track to me is not elite. One thing that you can compare to, New Hampshire. New Hampshire, not because the exact same layout, but same tires. The Cup Series ran at New Hampshire back in September. All right. So think about that race. The Hendrick cars were surprisingly good. Blaney won it. The Toyotas were not as great. So do we take that and cross-apply it there? I'm going to pull up stats for Trucks Xfinity real quick and look at the weekend schedule before we bug out of here. But should we get to our picks, boys? Should we do it? Devin, you've had all this time. I predestined your pick, and I didn't mean to. I thought you were hanging to your guns there. We've seen Dan already have a pick, but you, sir.
Well, I was thinking about it on my drive home because I was listening to the NASCAR radio post-race show on Sirius XM Sunday night. I was thinking about it. It's going to be really hard to pick a champion. I know I said last week, Briscoe's going to go out and win this championship, but I'm going to go back to July, Brickyard 400 weekend. Okay. Denny Hamlin has a press conference, says this is his final contract that he's signing with Joe Gibbs Racing. Mm-hmm. And I kind of akin this to where Kyle Busch was going into 2019. My heart really wants to pick Chase Briscoe to win the championship this Sunday. won his first Cup Series race at Phoenix. Looked really good throughout the season, won numerous poles. But my head, I think I'm going to have to go with Denny Hamlin, and it's for the reason I just said. I think Hamlin's in the same spot in his career as Kyle Busch was back in 2019. Hamlin knows his window's probably coming to an end in the coming years, said this is his final contract extension with Joe Gibbs Racing, so I bet he's going to be uber aggressive to go out, get his first Cup Series championship wins, because he said if he starts falling off at any point, he said he's going to retire. So I think Denny Hamlin, and I can't believe I'm saying this,
I'm shocked,
to win the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series championship.
Okay. And for all those reasons, I second that. I picked Larson going into the playoffs. By the way, I think any of them you could make a great case for. So I'm not saying unequivocal. No, there is no unequivocal anything. I don't even know that one of our championship 4 drivers is going to win the race because of how tight the field is. I feel like they're tighter together than the playoff drivers have been in relation to the field in the past. All right. But I think for the sheer sake of anarchy and just wanting to see NASCAR have to suck it in and hand him a trophy and then spend the whole week in Phoenix together, because that's where the banquet is the following week, with him just partying like hell in Phoenix. All right. And just all of that, I'm all for it. And honestly, as bad as the fan base has been on social media this year, it just complaining to me just seems worse than it has been in the past. I think the fan base gets its medicine and Denny Hamlin wins. There you go. By the way, I love you, race fans. Keep listening. Respond right here. Okay. Now, Dan, so by the way, so for our picks here, Denny Hamlin finished second in the spring to his teammate Christopher Bell, and I know these are different races. Usually the spring, fall play out differently. He led on 3 laps, but he finished second, got 43 points in the race, which was, I think, the third most in that race. So he got some stage points. Kyle Larson finished third in that event. All right. So Hamlin, Larson, second, third. Who finished sixth? William Byron, but more importantly, led 83 laps in the spring race, and he started on the pole back in March. William Byron, Dan's pick, circle that. And then Chase Briscoe qualified poorly and crashed early, and frankly was still getting used to the Gibbs cars. He had a tough start of the year, so Briscoe's spring stats, not so great. So 3 of your championship 4 finished in the top 6 in the spring. All right? Something to write down for Sunday when none of it matters and they all crash in turn 1 and Josh Berry wins or whatever. Who knows? Okay. Let's look at what the previous series did too in their.
What about Dan's pick for the championship?
Well, he said. Oh, he said Dan. All that he said earlier. Dan, is it still William Byron, or did it change after I read you? There you go. And the spring in the Xfinity Series, this driver does have something to race for in the championship for. Who won in the spring in the Xfinity Series? Go with thinking all the way back. Oh man, see, Dan did a mic drop right there. If Denny Hamlin wins the championship, he might just retire on the spot. Dan made his championship pick, retired on the spot right there. Eric Almirola won in the spring, and he's one of for the owner's point title at number 19. Then it was Alex Bowman, Brandon Jones, Ryan Sieg, Justin Allgaier finished 5th, and he won the championship there, of course, last fall. We go the whole show without mentioning that. That's worth saying. Jesse Love, who's racing for it, he finished 9th. Let me find Carson Kvapil. Oof. Oh, that doesn't look good. Yep, 26th. And Connor Zilic was 16th. But the season changed a lot after Zilic broke his back, didn't it? Okay, so I don't even know if I want to look at results from the spring. And then for the trucks, they have not raced there this year, but last fall, Ty Majeski was the winner, and he's racing for the championship 4. He was last year's champion. Let me just see. Corey Heim was second and led 16 laps, but it was dominated by Majeski. And then Caden Honeycutt finished 7th last fall in trucks. And Tyler Ankrum was also in the race. And let me find number 18. I know this is riveting radio, everybody. He finished 33rd and crashed out early there. So all over the place. Hard to predict. Dev. So what do you think for Xfinity and trucks? Are you predicting Heim and Zilic to run the table too?
I think if you had to take them in one race, I think they'll have the best shot at winning. Now, we've seen upsets before, is particularly in the truck series. I think a couple of years ago we saw I think it might have been Majeski when he won the championship. He got
last
hot
year.
at the end of the year, but that was a year that Corey Heim was expected to win the championship. But I think I'm trying to remember what year it was. It was within the past
Well,
3 or
the
4
last
years.
2 years, Heim has been the guy. But before this year, I mean, so this is the third year in a row. Heim's been the guy. But last year, he and Majeski went back and forth. Majeski won some races, and on and on. This year, it has been Heim versus the field, undoubtedly. And so, I mean, Majeski winning last year, while it wasn't as good a season as Heim, it wasn't unheard of that Majeski was going to win a race. This year, it just doesn't line up the same way. And remember, 2 years ago, he threw a blanket all over all those guys. And Carson Hocevar, who was also in the championship for, wrecked Corey Heim on a restart. And I just want to tell you, Heim ain't over that. I want Heim to go to the Cup Series just so they can have to race each other each week. But many other reasons, too. By the way, how is Corey Heim not a Cup driver? Anyway, I'm not going to run down the full practice qualifying schedules except to say the Cup Series gets more practice than normal. All right, instead of the whole 20-minute two-group thing, they get more practice. Truck Series championship race, Halloween night. What do we think the ratings are going to be for that? Halloween night, but I mean, whatever. It's Friday night race. That's great. 7:30, FS1, Xfinity Series, Saturday night as well. This is not a Saturday late afternoon thing ending at night. No, it starts at 7:30 on the CW. All right. And then the Cup race will be just after 3 p.m. Sunday on Channel 11 in Atlanta, NBC. All right. I did not look at the ratings for this week, but I would think they were up again just because they were on the big stick, right? I didn't look, but whatever. It doesn't matter. The rating stuff bums me out. Dan, you cut out there right as we were talking about Xfinity and Truck Series playoff stuff. Do you think the two dominant drivers that won in each series are going to end up being the victors of the championship in Phoenix, whether they win the race or not?
That is one of the things that I haven't kept up with trucks for Xfinity that much, but I would venture to guess that my best guess would be yes.
Best guess, yes. That is a best guess. The two guys with double-digit wins.
Yep.
That's my dog, by the way. Excuse me. Two drivers with double-digit wins doing it. But, hey, Justin Allgaier is going to be toe-to-toe with Zillage. And that's what I'd love to see is to see those guys in Xfinity just toe-to-toe because Allgaier is so darn good at Phoenix. And he drove from a lap down. I mean, a green flag pit road penalty a year ago. One of the best drives in all my years watching racing I've ever seen was Justin Allgaier come back to win that championship. Unbelievable. That along with Tony Stewart, 2011 Homestead versus Carl Edwards. Those two, man, that's just great racing. And I just hope it's not a runaway, whatever it is. I hope there's a little bit of suspense. Although in trucks, I want Corey Heim to just lap the field. God, just put it to rest. We don't need the chance that like Tanner Gray is going to wreck him or something late in the race. Just put it to rest. Anyway, all right. So you heard our predictions there. We laid out the weekend. Night races Friday and Saturday. Cup races Sunday. And that's that. All right. This show is going to continue in the off season, everyone, because there's going to be a lot of big storylines, not just with the trial, but as other things get figured out here. And we have stuff to get off our chest. We're certainly going to have a big show next week as we talk about who ends up getting crowned as champion. With that said, final thoughts. 5 to go. Devin, you got anything before you head to work?
Yeah, I think fans should just enjoy this weekend. We got great drivers participating in all 3 series. History to be made with the Xfinity and Truck Series, seeing the double-digit wins out of both of these drivers. And then the Cup Series, I think this might be the best championship fight that we're going to get that we've gotten in a very long time. Joe Gibbs Racing versus Hendrick Motorsports. There's been so much complaining about the championship format and all that with how it is set up in the top 3 series. Look, these championships are not just given out, they're earned. You have to race the system, so enjoy it. I think the Cup Series one, we're in for a really good one between JGR and HMS, so I just want the fans just enjoy the championship races because this is our last set of races until late January, early February when we're in Bowman Gray Stadium.
That's a great point. That's our last racing until that time.
And
That's
also
a great
shout out
point.
Matt Crafton as well for racing in his last Truck Series race this Friday night.
Excellent cheers as well. And the thing too is we don't know when we watch these races which drivers are actually making their last go of it. Casey Mears this past week, and my final thought, Casey Mears, who came back after a couple of years to notch some starts driving for Carl Long to get that 600th NASCAR start, and he got it in the Truck Series at Martinsville, by the way. Imagine telling him 15 years ago, man, you're going to come back in your late 40s and run for Carl Long just to get a couple of starts. You don't know when the light's going to go out. You don't know when that last start's going to be. And some people, some teams, some drivers, some crew members, this will be their last go of it. So savor it and enjoy it. It'll never be the exact same ever again, right? Dan, last thoughts for you.
Going into this race at Phoenix, it's I guess it's kind of one of those races where I'm looking forward to it, but no, I'm not, because I wish it was someplace else besides Phoenix. I wish their format was different from the way it was for these championship events and choosing a champion, but just let it play out to be a good race, and hope all the pit crews have a good day and nobody messes up on pit road, because never hear the end of that either on
Oof.
who lost one of these champions a race. And I hope it's not a runaway.
That's a good point. We hope it's not a runaway there. By the way, Cup qualifying, it's kind of split up. Cup qualifying is at 5 Eastern on Saturday, but I think the practice is actually Friday, if I'm not mistaken. I just want to make sure I get that right. I'm sorry. Yeah, Devin, you're not in there. Sorry.
Yeah, it's on. They're doing it like how it used to be. Practice like a day before, then qualifying.
Yeah, so there's a 50-minute practice, 4:35 p.m. Eastern time on Friday before the truck race, 50 minutes. So instead of having two groups running 20, 25 minutes, 50 minutes, whole enchilada, qualifying the next day. And Xfinity practice will be right before that. So Xfinity and Cup both practice Friday. They both qualify back-to-back Saturday, and the Xfinity race is basically after that. There's also an Arkham Menards West race sandwiched in there at about 1 Eastern, I think it is, or 1 Eastern or 12 Eastern on Saturday. So got a lot going on. MRN, radio broadcast, Sirius XM 90. We told you the TV channels. It's going to be big, and we're going to recap it all as much as we can right here on the 5 to Go podcast. So thank you, boys, for jumping in. Folks, be sure, like what you heard, share the link with somebody. Of course, we want you to subscribe, turn on notifications, jump in the Facebook group, find Devin and myself on social media. If you track Dan down, you'll be one of the lucky few. All right, and he will
share the love here, Doug. Share the love.
It is. No, I'm not. You're low key on there. But you may not see him, but he will definitely see you. All right, he will definitely see you. Okay, he's Dan Elliott, boys. For Devin and Dan, I'm Doug. Thank you so much for listening. God bless. Godspeed to Nick Mangold, and of course to everybody else here that is hurting and feeling lost. We'll be back with you next week on the 5 to Go podcast. Thank you for listening. Oh, and go championship weekend. Let's go.